11-year-old black billionaire's twin daughters confront racist flight attendant minutes later. The sky belonged to them. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Excuse me, young ladies, are you lost? The words came out smooth, polite, and venom-laced. The entire first-class cabin turned quiet, the kind of silence that hums before a storm. The flight attendant stood tall in navy blue, hair pinned tight, lips stretched into a rehearsed smile. But her eyes said something else. The kind of look that measures worth before offering service. In front of her stood two girls, identical curls, identical blush pink suits, not a wrinkle on them, not a hint of fear. Just two 11-year-old twins staring up at a grown woman who'd already decided they didn't belong. One of them tilted her head. "Lost?" she asked. Her sister's voice followed, calm and sharp as glass. "We're not lost. We're exactly where we belong." A few passengers chuckled under their breath, uneasy, the kind of laughter people use when truth makes them uncomfortable. The attendant's smile didn't move. "These seats are reserved for first-class priority. You must have taken a wrong turn during boarding." The younger twin frowned. "Our tickets say first-class priority." The woman extended a manicured hand. "Then let me see them." Before the girl could respond, the attendant sighed, louder this time, performative, as if to let everyone around hear. "We've had incidents before. Children wandering in where they shouldn't." That line hit like static through the cabin. Row 3 stopped sipping coffee. Row 4 stopped pretending not to listen. And there, in that narrow aisle of altitude and privilege, something ancient repeated itself. The soft cruelty of doubt, dressed as procedure. The older twin straightened her tiny blazer, reached into her satchel, and handed over a black leather wallet. Inside, their boarding passes gleamed with gold embossing. Carter Group Executive Family Line. The attendant froze. Her eyes flicked between the names and the seats. Then she forced a laugh. "Ah, Carter Group. How cute. Cute." The word landed like a slap. One girl's nostrils flared. The other took one step forward. "Do you think we're a joke?" No one moved. Even the hum of the engine seemed to fade. The attendant leaned down, voice dropping low enough to sting but not to be recorded. "You little monkeys think you're special?" The words cut through the cabin like turbulence. Gasps erupted. A man in 2B looked up, phone trembling in his hand. The younger twin's mouth fell open, not in fear, but disbelief. Her sister pointed a finger, her voice rising with the weight of every injustice she'd never been old enough to name. "Did you just call us monkeys?" Before the woman could reply, a camera click echoed, then another. Someone whispered, "Is this really happening?" And just like that, the power began to shift. Because those two little girls weren't just passengers. They were legacy. They were daughters of the youngest black billionaire in America. And they had learned from him that silence was never safety, it was surrender. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe dignity has no age, hit like, share, and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now back to the twins. The older one took a breath that steadied the air itself. "Say it again," she whispered. But the attendant didn't. She couldn't. Because in 30,000 feet of sky, the smallest voices had already taken control of the room. And justice! It was about to board. 30 minutes earlier, before that silence cracked open the sky, the twins had walked onto Flight 227 hand in hand. No security detail, no press. Just two small figures in pastel suits, carrying matching satchels and calmness beyond their years. They didn't wear labels or jewels. No one would have guessed their father built an empire that spanned software, aviation, and renewable energy, or that their last name, Carter, could open boardrooms in 3 continents. Their father called it a field test. Sometimes, he'd said that morning, kneeling to meet their eyes. You have to see how the world treats you when it doesn't know who you are. He kissed their foreheads. And you'll show it how wrong it can be. Gauded, Marley Azid. The boarding line parted for them, not out of respect, but confusion. Two young girls in tailored suits, without parents. Unusual. Cameras flashed quietly, whispers followed. Still, they moved with poise, tapping their digital boarding passes at the scanner. The light turned emerald green, verified. They entered the first-class cabin like travelers, not heirs. The attendant smiled automatically, the way service staff are trained to smile until she looked closer. That's when her lips stiffened, her brows barely twitched, and the temperature dropped a few degrees. Seat 2A and 2B, window side, leather ivory, champagne glasses waiting. The twins climbed up carefully, legs swinging in rhythm. Feels different, the younger one said softly. Her sister smiled. It's just a seat, not a throne. They buckled in. The hum of quiet wealth surrounded them, murmurs of business calls, the smell of coffee brewed too perfectly. Across the aisle, a man in a gray suit eyed them curiously, muttering to his wife, "Are they models for some campaign?" The girls ignored him. They'd been taught grace before reaction. Their father's voice echoed like a private mantra. Power isn't about shouting, it's about knowing you don't have to. The plane door sealed with a muted thud. The captain's voice filled the cabin, warm, practiced, harmless. Welcome aboard Horizon Flight 227 to Geneva. Estimated time, 7 hours and 25 minutes. Sit back and enjoy the journey. But journeys like this were never simple for them. Because for every door they opened with brilliance and merit, another voice somewhere still whispered, "You don't belong here." The older twin glanced out the window. Clouds drifted in ribbons across the dawn. "Do you think we'll ever stop being tested?" she asked quietly. The younger shook her head. "Maybe not, but every time we pass, the test gets weaker." Their confidence wasn't noise. It was heritage, taught in quiet mornings at a breakfast table where their father read them stories not of fairy tales, but of founders who turned rejection into empire. Then came the first tap, the shadow falling across their seats. A polite cough, the first words of Part 1's storm waiting just ahead. "Excuse me, young ladies, are you lost?" The older one didn't even look up. "Here we go," she murmured. The younger smiled, not in fear, but recognition. Because they both knew this wasn't just another flight, it was a mirror, and the world was about to see what reflection it really carried. The engines roared beneath them, and the seatbelt sign blinked overhead. Outside, the sky stretched wide, indifferent. Inside, two small girls prepared to face prejudice with posture, not panic. No camera crews, no entourage, only legacy in miniature, silent, poised, and ready. And by the time that flight landed, the world would remember their names, not as victims, but as architects of dignity. The hum of the engines filled the silence that followed the insult, low and steady, like a heartbeat trying to hide panic. The flight attendant straightened, clutching the twins' boarding passes between her fingers as if they were counterfeit bills. Her name tag read K. Myers, her smile gone. "Young ladies," she said, louder now, "these seats are reserved for premium clientele. You need to return to the main cabin immediately." The older twin crossed her arms. "We are premium clientele." The words landed soft, but carried weight, the kind that comes from certainty, not pride. Miss Myers tilted her head, pretending to laugh. "Sweetheart, I've been doing this 15 years. I know when someone doesn't belong up here." Her tone was honey over glass, sweet, sharp, and meant to cut. A few passengers stirred. The man in 3A frowned but didn't intervene. The woman beside him whispered, "Just kids," and turned away. Only one person watched with quiet intensity, a tech engineer from Seattle named Mr. Howard. He'd noticed the Carter Group logo on their passes earlier. Now he leaned forward. "They scanned green," he said calmly. "They're in the right seats." The attendant didn't even look at him. "Sir, please remain seated. This doesn't concern you. Thanks for watching." "Friends, it does when you humiliate children in public," he replied. But she ignored him. The younger twin's voice trembled, not from fear, from outrage she was trying to hold inside. "You didn't even check properly." "I don't need to," Myers replied. "It's procedure." That word, procedure, the eternal shield for bias. The attendant turned toward the galley and called out, "Brian, can you verify 2 minors in first class? Possible ticket error. Enter they have being due the tense." Her voice carried through the cabin like an announcement of guilt. A few passengers lifted phones, pretending to scroll but recording. The twins sat still, breathing in sync like they'd practiced calm before board meetings their father took them to. The older twin spoke quietly, eyes fixed on the seat ahead. "You know what this feels like?" Her sister nodded. "Yeah, like when Dad told us his first investor meeting ended before it started. Argetted. Because of his skin? Because someone thought he didn't look like money." Myers returned, holding a tablet that still displayed verified Carter Group executive line. But her pride wouldn't let her stop. "Strange," she muttered, lowering her voice. "Anyone could forge a digital tag these days." That was when the younger twin finally stood. Her blazer barely reached the woman's ribs, but the energy around her shifted the cabin. "Stop pretending it's policy," she said steady. "It's just you." Passengers gasped. The words hung heavy, truth spoken without apology. Myers' face hardened. "Sit down before I call the captain." "You should," the older twin said. "He might like to know who we are." The attendant blinked, confused by the confidence, the authority in their small voices. Then she noticed the corner of a gold-embossed letter sticking from the girl's satchel. Carter Holdings, Private Aviation Division. Her expression faltered, but ego kept her standing. "Fine, Captain it is," she snapped, walking toward the cockpit. As she passed, the twins looked at each other. No words, just understanding. This wasn't new. This was inherited. Generations of disbelief compressed into one airborne confrontation. The hum of engines grew louder, almost like applause waiting for its cue. Mr. Howard leaned across the aisle and whispered, "Don't worry, the truth always lands." He too, and their WW. The younger twin smiled faintly. "So do we." And while the attendant disappeared behind the curtain, the girls straightened their seatbelts, adjusted their cuffs, and waited. Not for permission, not for apology, but for the moment every mask in this cabin would fall away. Outside, clouds rolled by like spectators. Inside, bias was about to meet its altitude limit. Captain Pierce appeared from behind the cockpit curtain, tall and steady in navy blue, the kind of man who believed procedure was virtue. Behind him, Miss Myers followed, still flushed from humiliation disguised as duty. "What seems to be the problem?" he asked. Myers didn't hesitate. "Unauthorized minors in first class. They're occupying seats they didn't pay for." The words came crisp, confident, rehearsed. Every passenger within 3 rows went still. The younger twin blinked slowly. "We did pay. Check your system." Pierce frowned, glancing at the tablet Myers offered. "Carter Group executive line," he read aloud. "Yes," Myers cut in quickly. "Likely fabricated. Happens more than you think." That was when a hand rose from seat 3C. A man in a gray sweater, calm, middle-aged, eyes sharp behind rimmed glasses. "I'm sorry, Captain," he said, "but I saw their passes scan green at boarding, and I saw the attendant delete something on her device afterward." "Ander the state." The cabin stirred, heads turned. A ripple of whispers traveled down the aisle. Miss Myers stiffened. "Sir, that's a serious accusation. And so is lying to a child," he said flatly. The tension thickened, but this time it didn't belong to her. It belonged to the truth that had just stepped forward. The captain turned to Myers. "Is that true?" She faltered, blinking too fast. "It was a technical error." The older twin tilted her head. "Or a personal one?" "One." The passengers caught that line, quiet but surgical. A few phones were now recording outright. The hum of engines mixed with the buzz of digital justice. "Sir," Myers tried again, "these girls could be anyone." Mr. Howard, that was his name, leaned back and said, "They're not anyone. They're Carter's daughters." The sentence hung like thunder before lightning. "Carter?" Pierce repeated. "Alexander Carter, founder of Carter Holdings. The man who owns 30% of this airline." The air changed, not the oxygen, the awareness. Even Miss Myers' confidence faltered. That's impossible. Howard handed over his phone. On screen, a recent headline. Carter Air expands equity program. CEO's twin daughters attend launch. The photo, two small girls in matching suits. These girls. A gasp rippled across the cabin. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, it's them." Miss Myers stepped back a fraction, her voice cracking. "I didn't know." The older twin looked up at her. "You didn't ask." The captain exhaled, rubbing his forehead. He wasn't a cruel man, but he understood the gravity now, not just of the mistake, but of the eyes watching, recording, judging. "Miss Myers," he said carefully, "please return to the galley." "But, Captain, that's an order." The woman froze, pride warring with fear, then finally turned away. Howard leaned toward the twins. "You all right?" The younger nodded. "We're used to storms." He smiled faintly. "Maybe. But this time the clouds are breaking for you." The captain crouched beside them, voice softer now. "I'll handle the rest. No one will bother you again." The older twin met his gaze. "We don't need protection, just fairness." He nodded slowly, because she was right. When Myers disappeared behind the curtain, the cabin sighed, as if the plane itself had exhaled. Passengers exchanged looks, relief mingled with guilt. Justice hadn't landed yet. But for the first time on that flight, someone had spoken up. And sometimes, all it takes to start a revolution is one witness, finally deciding to see. For a few minutes, calm pretended to return. The captain had gone back to the cockpit. Passengers adjusted their headphones. The twins sat side by side, staring straight ahead, as if stillness itself was a form of armor. But silence, in rooms built on arrogance, never lasts long. Miss Myers reappeared. Her lipstick had been retouched, her posture rehearsed, defiance trying to wear the mask of professionalism. She leaned close, her shadow spilling across their tray tables. "I don't care who your father is," she hissed under her breath. "Children like you don't just buy first-class seats." The older twin blinked, slow and deliberate. "Children like us? You know exactly what I mean," Myers said, voice tight, trembling with something that sounded like control but smelled like fear. The younger twin reached for her tablet, fingers steady. "We'll record from now on." "You do that," the woman snapped. "It won't change what you are." That's when the older twin turned, really turned. Eyes locked on the woman with a calmness that made even nearby passengers freeze. "You think money is what got us here. It's not. It's history. It's work. It's what people like you never bothered to see." The air pressure seemed to shift. "Miss." Myers opened her mouth to retaliate, and that's when the older twin's memory took over. Flashback. A dim hallway, a younger version of their father, age 23, standing at an airport counter in a cheap gray suit, the clerk behind the glass window smirking. "Sorry, sir, this line's for priority members only." He wasn't angry, just quiet. He slid his first-class ticket forward. "I am priority." Lime. The clerk tore it in half. That was the day he promised himself two things: never again, and never for his children. The image dissolved, returning to the cabin, the same insult, the same contempt, different century. And in the echo of that memory, both girls seemed taller. "Return to your seats," Myers ordered, her tone loud now, hoping volume could fix what dignity had already broken. The passengers stirred again. A woman whispered, "She's still doing this?" The younger twin stood this time. Her blazer sleeve brushed against the champagne glass. It rang softly like a bell calling truth to attention. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just said, "You should be careful. Some storms don't start from the sky. They start from silence." The sentence froze everyone. Even the engines seemed to lower their growl. Myers laughed, brittle, forced. Big words for a child. The older twin smiled faintly. "They're not mine. They're my father's." Then she tapped her tablet screen. An AI voice chimed softly. "Protocol, Sky 6 initiated. Reporting incident to Carter Holdings and Horizon Airlines legal board." The color drained from Myers' face. "What did you do?" The tablet glowed with the Carter Holdings seal. Gold against black. Passengers leaned forward, whispering. Cameras rose again. "You said we don't belong here," the younger twin said. "Maybe you're right. her sister added. Maybe this seat was too small for us anyway. In the paxt. The announcement tone rang overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing minor turbulence. But it wasn't the plane shaking. It was power redistributing. In real time, 30,000 feet above the world. The older twin sat back down, smooth, composed. Don't worry, she said. You'll understand soon. Myers stared, her authority unraveling one breath at a time. From behind them, a voice murmured, "The witness, Mr. Howard. I think this flight just changed altitude." Hoova back twelves, and with that, the breaking point wasn't chaos. It was quiet, controlled, exactly how power should sound when it finally wakes. The glow from the tablet cast a faint gold light over their faces. Passengers leaned forward instinctively, drawn by the stillness that followed the click. Silence, heavy, deliberate, always came right before change. On the screen, a Carter Holdings logo pulsed once, then again. A calm, synthetic voice filled the cabin. Incident logged. Activating Sky Protocol 6. Notifying Carter Holdings Board of Directors and Horizon Airlines corporate compliance. Miss Myers stumbled a half step back. What is this? The younger twin didn't answer. She didn't even look up. Her sister spoke instead, voice flat as glass. We don't raise our voices, we raise the system. The line hit like thunder muffled by luxury carpet. A woman across the aisle whispered, "Oh my God, they're serious." "Mister," Howard pulled out his phone and said quietly, "They're streaming this." Because he'd already recognized the interface, Carter's internal accountability network, a tool so advanced it could log misconduct in real time and send it straight to the top. The twins sat perfectly still, like two statues of calm. Miss Myers turned to the galley, panic sharpening her tone. "Brian, call security! Now!" But before she could finish, the cabin intercom beeped. "This is Captain Pierce, Miss Myers. Return to your station immediately." Her eyes widened. The captain's voice wasn't confused anymore. It was clipped, professional, and careful. He already knew. Somewhere above the clouds, a notification had reached Carter Group's aviation division. And somewhere in Geneva, a CEO's phone was vibrating. The younger twin turned her head, eyes steady. "Do you know what Dad always says?" Her sister smirked faintly. "That power is quiet until it decides not to be. The 40 abettered, the devilited wise." Passengers started murmuring. Not gossip now, but respect. Something in the energy had shifted. The mockery had turned into awe. Myers grabbed the tablet from the tray, desperate. "Enough of your little game," she snapped. The screen flashed unauthorized access detected. Then, calmly, violation logged. Name, K. Myers. Role, flight attendant. Allegation, racial misconduct. Her blood drained from her face. You can't just report me." The older twin looked at her. "We didn't. You did." From the cockpit, the captain's voice returned, firmer now. "Miss Myers, corporate's on the line. They're requesting your statement." The sentence landed like a verdict. Howard leaned back, exhaling slowly. "That's checkmate, isn't it?" The younger twin smiled softly. "Not yet. Just accountability." Outside, the horizon stretched silver and endless. But inside that cabin, everything had narrowed to truth and consequence. Miss Myers' posture shrank. She glanced at the twins, then at the passengers who no longer looked away. No allies, no excuses, only witnesses. Then came the final sting, the chime of an incoming message. The tablet screen brightened, a live video request. "Incoming, Alexander Carter, CEO, Carter Holdings." The older twin tapped, "Accept." Her father's voice, calm and resonant, filled the cabin. "Girls, are you all right?" "We're fine, Dad," the younger answered. "We just met someone who forgot how to fly with respect." A pause. Then his voice sharpened slightly. "Understood. I'm connecting with Horizon's board now. Stay seated. You've done enough." The line ended, but the power lingered. Not from him, but from them. Miss Myers lowered herself into the jump seat, trembling. The cabin had turned into a courtroom at 30,000 feet, and the verdict was already written. One of the twins whispered half to herself, "Protocol complete. Wednesday." and above the roar of the engines it almost sounded like applause. For a moment, the cabin was quiet enough to hear the faint click of a pen rolling across a tray table. Everyone had stopped pretending this was just a misunderstanding. The tension had shifted. It wasn't anger anymore. It was revelation waiting to happen. Captain Pierce reappeared, face pale but composed. He carried a small phone in his hand, the corporate hotline still glowing on the screen. "Ems? Myers," he said carefully. "Corporate is requesting a live verification of the passengers' identities." Her voice wavered. "Captain, I can explain." "Then do it," he said, "because right now half the cabin is filming you." The older twin stayed seated, eyes fixed on her window reflection, calm, controlled, as if she'd seen this moment before. The younger twin unlocked the tablet again. A holographic ID projection shimmered above the screen. Gold edges, black seal, Carter Holdings, executive family clearance. Gasps spread like static. Even the captain stepped back. "That's," he whispered. The older twin finished his thought for him. "Real." Miss Myers shook her head slowly, denial fighting the evidence. "That can't be genuine. Your children." The younger twin turned her head. "You're right, but you're the one acting small." The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Someone in row 5 clapped once, instinctively before stopping, unsure if it was appropriate. "Who are you?" the attendant finally asked, voice breaking. The older twin stood, her movement deliberate, the kind that silences a room. She adjusted her blazer, straightened her tie, and spoke softly, but every syllable landed like a hammer. "You called us frauds in an airline we own." The cabin erupted, a collective gasp, a ripple of shock that felt electric. Phones lifted higher. Passengers leaned over aisles. "The witness," Mr. Howard whispered. "That's the line. That's the one they'll quote everywhere." The captain swallowed hard. You're the Carter heirs?" The younger nodded. "And you just broadcast how your staff treats equity owners." The intercom chimed. A corporate voice came through, smooth, composed, and devastating. "This is Horizon Corporate Compliance. The incident aboard Flight 227 has been logged, recorded, and confirmed. Miss Myers, please prepare to be relieved of duty upon landing." Her hand went limp. The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The older twin didn't gloat. She simply lowered herself back into her seat, calm as sunrise. "You thought we were out of place," she said softly. "But maybe the problem isn't where we sit, it's where you stand." A few passengers murmured in agreement. One woman whispered, "That's justice in real time. His make the past." Another man near the back muttered, "About damn time someone said it." The captain, regaining his composure, nodded to the girls. "I'll make sure you're not disturbed again." The younger twin smiled faintly. "Don't worry, Captain. We're not the ones shaking anymore." Outside, sunlight tore through the clouds, a long streak of gold flooding the cabin. The light hit their faces, catching in their hair like halos of defiance. The attendant, once towering, now seemed smaller than her uniform. She tried to speak again, but the older twin interrupted, voice calm and final. "You mistook silence for submission. That's your last mistake." The line hung in the air, cinematic and immortal, the kind of sentence that becomes legend in 1,000 reposts. No applause this time, just awe. Because everyone in that cabin had just witnessed something bigger than confrontation. They had witnessed inheritance standing its ground. The twins sat back, side by side, gazing out at the wide horizon. The younger whispered, "Dad's going to smile when he sees this." Her sister replied, "He already knows. The sky just changed hands." And in that perfect hush, 30,000 feet above the world, the power finally belonged to them. The announcement from corporate still echoed through the cabin when everything seemed to stop moving. The engines hummed. The lights dimmed slightly. Even the clouds outside looked suspended in judgment. Miss Myers stood frozen near the galley, her headset still clipped to her collar. Her authority gone. Passengers who once looked away were now staring straight at her, unblinking. Every eye in that first-class cabin had become a mirror, reflecting exactly what she'd refused to see. The intercom chimed again. This time, the voice was unmistakable. This is Alexander Carter, CEO of Carter Holdings and majority shareholder of Horizon Airlines. The incident on Flight 227 has reached my desk. Effective immediately, Flight Crew Member K. Myers is suspended pending review for racial misconduct. The air cracked like thunder. Some passengers gasped. Others simply nodded, as if the universe had finally decided to balance itself. The older twin glanced toward the cockpit curtain, calm, unmoved. The younger whispered, "He didn't even raise his voice." Her sister replied, "He never has to." Captain Pierce stepped forward, voice subdued. "Miss Myers, you'll need to step aside. I'm assigning temporary service control to First Officer Ramirez." She stammered, You can't just..." But before she could finish, her badge beeped. A soft digital tone. Access revoked. It was over. "Mr." Howard leaned toward the girls, half smiling. "That's what accountability looks like in the age of technology." The older twin smiled back. "No, that's what it looks like when silence ends." The attendant's facade cracked. She turned toward the passengers, voice trembling. "I didn't mean any harm. I was just following protocol." A woman near the aisle, the same one who'd stayed quiet before, spoke up. "Then maybe your protocol's the problem." Phones caught every second. The world wasn't waiting for headlines anymore. It was watching live. The younger twin reached for her tablet again. The corporate interface flickered back to life. "Sky Protocol 6 complete," it read. "Report filed. Crew review initiated. Passenger witnesses logged." She whispered, "Logged?" Her sister's gaze softened. "We don't humiliate people back. We let the truth do it." "With have the bast visited." They both looked toward Myers, who now sat in the jump seat, eyes glassy, fingers gripping the fabric like it could hold her career together. Captain Pierce knelt slightly beside the twins. "On behalf of Horizon, I'm deeply sorry." The older twin met his eyes, her voice gentle but unshakable. "Apologies mean less than change. Just make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else." He nodded. "You have my word." "God." 5 Raider. A ripple of clapping began, hesitant at first, then louder, growing from seat to seat. Not the kind of applause that celebrates spectacle, the kind that honors truth finally seen. The attendant covered her face, shoulders shaking. But no one mocked her. No one gloated. Justice in its purest form doesn't need cruelty to be complete. As the applause faded, the captain returned to the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be continuing our flight to Geneva shortly. We appreciate your patience and your dignity." His voice cracked slightly at the last word. The older twin exhaled and leaned back into her seat. "It's strange," she murmured, "how heavy silence feels before it breaks." Her sister nodded. "That's why we break it." Outside, dawn touched the edges of the clouds, a slow bloom of gold after a storm. Inside, a lesson lingered in the pressurized air. Power doesn't need to scream, and justice doesn't need revenge. As the engines roared back to full strength, the younger twin closed her eyes, whispering, "The sky's clear now," and her sister smiled. "That's because it's finally ours." 30 minutes later, the plane soared steady above the Atlantic. First class was quiet, not awkward, but reverent. The kind of silence that follows truth after it's been spoken. Miss Myers had been escorted to the service bay. Captain Pierce had filed an in-flight incident report personally to the Corporate Ethics Board, and the passengers, once indifferent, now watched the twins with quiet admiration, not because of who they were, but because of how they handled what no child should have to. The younger twin gazed out the window, clouds stretching beneath them like endless fields of mercy. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the glass. 2 faces, 2 souls, 1 legacy. She whispered, "Dad always says altitude tests character." Her sister smiled. Then we passed. A soft chime came from the tablet between them. "Incoming message, Alexander Carter." The older twin tapped play. Her father's voice filled the cabin, warm and steady as thunder wrapped in velvet. "I just got the report. You handled yourselves better than most adults ever could. I'm proud of you, not for being Carters, but for remembering what that name stands for. Grace under fire. You didn't humiliate anyone. You just let the truth breathe. And when truth breathes, injustice suffocates." Passengers nearby glanced over, some smiling, some pretending not to listen, but everyone listening. Remember this, his voice continued. We don't build companies to get richer. We build them so no one has to prove their worth twice. The message ended with a quiet tone. The twins sat still, eyes glistening, the weight of pride balanced with the calm of closure. A flight attendant, the new one, Ramirez, approached slowly. Ladies, she said softly. The captain asked if you'd like to visit the cockpit when we land. He'd be honored. The younger twin nodded politely. Tell him thank you. We'd like that. When Ramirez turned away, the older twin leaned closer, whispering, Funny how respect sounds different when it's real. Mr. Howard, still seated across the aisle, smiled. It always did. You two just made the world listen again. It is dozen. Outside, the first glimpse of sunrise painted the horizon, soft pink melting into gold. The light stretched through the cabin, landing perfectly on their faces. The younger twin turned to her sister. Do you think she'll ever understand what she did? Maybe, the older said, if she's brave enough to stay quiet long enough to hear herself. For a moment, they both sat silent, the kind of silence that wasn't heavy anymore. It was peace, earned, not given. Then came the captain's voice, calm but different now, humble. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. On behalf of Horizon Airlines and Carter Holdings, we thank you for your patience today. May we all remember that altitude doesn't just lift planes, it should lift people. Applause followed, not loud, not forced, just honest. The twins shared a look, eyes bright. They didn't smile for cameras or for validation. They smiled because they'd seen something break and mend in real time. A system, a perception, a cycle. The younger whispered, We didn't just fly through the storm. Her sister finished, We changed its weather. As the jet descended through the final layer of clouds, sunlight flooded the cabin completely, washing every surface in gold. It wasn't triumph. It was clarity. When the wheels touched down, the whole cabin exhaled. A collective release of tension, of shame, of hope. And as the seatbelt signs blinked off, one last line appeared on their tablet. Sky Protocol 6, closed. Case resolved. Change initiated. The older twin read it aloud, then looked at her sister. We didn't raise our voices, she said softly. We raised the standard. Fade out. Soft music rises. Strings over clouds. Justice, quiet and absolute, cruising at 30,000 feet.